The Gophers have added a new guard to the rotation, to the lineup, and he could be a starter in Lu'Cye Patterson, plus why Mike Mitchell Jr. is being overlooked and that needs to stop today.
You are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
However it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
What's up, Gopher fans? You are listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Today, we're talking about the men's basketball team because I think Mike Mitchell Jr. is not getting enough credit, enough love on how he can be a facilitator for this team. So we're going to dive into what I had for notes on him when he committed initially and why he could be the answer at the point guard position. We're also going to talk about Lu'Cye Patterson, the newest transfer portal addition for the Minnesota Gophers. And finally, the Gophers' priority has made itself clear. What the Gophers are telling us about this next season, all that on today's show of Locked On Golden Gophers. So be sure to hit subscribe over on YouTube so you don't miss any of your daily Gophers content moving forward. And as always, I appreciate you for listening. This show wouldn't be anything if it wasn't for you. So thank you for being everydayers and tapping in. If you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, anything you want to hear discussed here on the podcast, let me know in the comments on YouTube. I'll definitely give those a look. But let's talk about Mike Mitchell Jr. because I truly think that he's getting a little bit overlooked by Gophers fans from all the portal departures that we've had and people being a little bit panicked with some of the bigger names we lost, like Elijah Hawkins, Pharrell Payne, Cam Christie, and I get it. Those names are tough to swallow. It was unexpected. There was a lot of hope with this team, and all of a sudden it was kind of a slap in the face that multiple players were like, nah, I'm not for it anymore. And the Elijah Hawkins one hurt the worst because he said he was coming back twice and then he didn't. But we're moving forward because Lu'Cye Patterson, a newest transfer for the Gophers, did something similar to Charlotte. So we've been on the giving and the receiving end of that. So we just have to move forward, pick our heads up, and hope that the next season is going to be more successful. Now, all that to be said, Mike Mitchell Jr. is a player that is coming back for the Gophers, did start for this team, and can be a huge player for Minnesota moving forward. Now, he didn't get to show his full skill set with this Gophers team. He did what Coach Ben Johnson and the staff had requested of him, had asked of him, and in the role that they wanted him to play, he played that to the fullest. Now, he was a higher rated transfer prospect coming in last year than Elijah Hawkins was. And so what evaluators had seen prior to them coming and joining this team would have told you that Mike Mitchell Jr. is probably the more likely to get involved with the starting lineup, to be a key player for the Gophers. And both of them ended up being starters, being key players for the Gophers, but Elijah Hawkins' skill set in the assist game was second to none in almost the entire country. So it made it special. It made it more painful once he left, but I think it has also allowed us to take for granted what Mike Mitchell Jr. can be for this team moving forward, because he did what the team needed from him last year, which was more of a spark plug scorer, a three-point shooter, and playing solid defense. And on the defensive end, he created so many turnover opportunities, so many deflections, so many steals that can't be understated enough. He was a big player for the Gophers on defense, and defense is a huge element of what kept him on the floor for this team, even when his shot wasn't falling. So those defensive elements are going to be huge for the Gophers regardless. And on top of that, when you go back to his time at Pepperdine, he was the point guard for that team in both of his seasons. Now, he not only averaged 5 assists in one season, he did it in 2 seasons with Pepperdine. So overall, he has the ability to be that facilitator, and the facilitator role is definitely within his skill set. He just wasn't asked to play that role with Minnesota. So now he might possibly be asked to play that quite a bit more heading into the next season. Now, my notes on him when he initially committed, I just went all the way back through my notes and grabbed him, and I said he was priority number one for me of the guys that were in the portal that Minnesota was talking to. He was the one that intrigued me the most. Averaged 11.4 points per game, 5 assists per game, 4.1 rebounds per game, shot 44% from three as a sophomore and 76% from the free throw line. He had 3 turnovers per game. That was something we said he had to work on, but he was an all-conference freshman team in his freshman year, and he, in that freshman year, averaged 9.1 points, 4.9 assists, and 3.9 rebounds, playing heavy minutes. Now, he didn't see as many minutes as Elijah Hawkins last year, but his minutes could see a tick up in this upcoming season if no one else can answer the call. But other teams that were interested in that transfer portal was Arizona, who was a ranked team a lot of last year, San Diego State, who was coming off of a championship game appearance, Utah, Arkansas. Those teams were all in the running for Mike Mitchell Jr., and he ended up coming to Minnesota. And now, when watching his film, I said he was not afraid to pull up from deep. He often uses a step back. His ball handling is clean and confident. He had a decent floater game. He attacks the rim aggressively but controlled, had a decent burst out of his hezzy move, and on top of that, he had swagger about him on the court and was not afraid to chirp a little bit. Now, we saw elements of that last season, but we didn't get to see much of the floater game or him on the drive. We didn't get to see him attack the rim aggressively but controlled. We didn't get to see those elements, and we might get to see them a bit more this year if he does play the more ball handler position for this Gophers team. And on top of that, we might start to see more of that facilitating aspects. Now, 2 of the things that I said were potential concerns was cleaning up the turnovers, which he had his best year for the turnovers this past season. But on top of that, I said defensively, he needed consistency there. And he showed that consistency last year for the most part. And he was a stalwart when it came to deflections and steals. So he definitely improved and cleaned that up. Now, I talked about he was a facilitator, which was needed with Talon Cooper's departure, and that his ball handling is probably better than anybody on that 2022-2023 roster. So that should give us, just because we didn't see it last year, that should give you some insights on looking back to what he put on film prior. He has it in his skill sets. So overall, looking back, he came in, he played a combo guard, he played a lot of 2. Defensively, his game jumped, and he was critical in creating steals. And on games where his scoring wasn't hitting, his defense is what kept him on the floor, but he has the ability to create, and that could help him stay on the floor in this new era of Gophers basketball, in this new season of Gophers basketball with the Elijah Hawkins departure. So don't overlook Mike Mitchell Jr. Don't do it. I think he's going to be a key piece for the Gophers. I think he is going to be a locked starter for the Gophers next season. And I think he could play the one and take another step with Minnesota if that is what they need. Now, even now that the Gophers have added Lu'Cye Patterson, who I'm excited about, and we're going to talk about him coming up next, I still think both of those players are going to play pivotal roles for the Gophers in 2024-2025. So he is the transfer we're going to talk about next, diving into, because he is the latest addition to the maroon and gold. We're talking about Lu'Cye Patterson and what he brings to this roster coming up next. First, I need to talk to you about our friends over at Gametime, because they are hands down my favorite ticketing app I have ever experienced, bar none. There is no question, and if you haven't given them a try, it is time to get started. And you can check them out at gametime.co. That's gametime.co, or you can download their app and create an account today. Now, Gametime is the authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier, and the prices on Gametime actually go down closer to the tip-off. So on top of that, they have last-minute killer deals, but they have the lowest price guarantee. And I know if you're trying to get Timberwolves tickets in the playoffs, the excitement is roaring. People are getting fired up. And as they get further, the prices are probably going to go up. But Gametime has the lowest price guaranteed. So they guarantee that they will have the lowest price tickets of those seats, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So definitely give Gametime a try. Not only that, but you can see a panoramic view of your seats before you buy. And you can toggle the feature of all-in pricing so you don't get surprise fees at the checkout. You have it all in front of you ahead of time, knowing what you're going to pay. And Gametime has ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guessing work out of ticket buying when it comes to Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Locked On College as a promo code, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. But give it a try today. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Gophers fans, let's talk about Lu'Cye Patterson because that man is headed to the maroon and gold. He's coming back home. He initially played high school ball at Brooklyn Center, actually took his team to state as a sophomore where he averaged 24 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, and 6.5 assists per game. He was a do-it-all guard then, and he has become more of that in his time in college. Now, he didn't have the easy path in college. He didn't have all of the huge big time offers, but he grinded his way and he found his way into ample opportunities, became an all conference player, and was one of the best scoring options in the country, especially in the low major level. Charlotte fans are probably just as mad about his departure as Minnesota fans are about Elijah Hawkins' departure, since they were very similar. But Lu'Cye Patterson is a big guard, 6'2", 205 pounds. He has some build to him, and he was second team all AAC last year after leading his team in scoring with 14.6 points per game. Now, he shot 43.6% from the field goal and 35% from deep, so he has scoring ability from any spot on the floor. And on top of that, he can drive, he can create. He didn't ever average above 3 assists in his time in college basketball, but he can get the ball to his teammates. He can create opportunities, and he does play that guard position. And I think that him and Mike Mitchell Jr. on the floor together will likely happen often, but it gives them some more versatility in who can bring the ball up and who can get the offense initiated. And that versatility is something that Coach Ben Johnson has been a major fan of and very important in implementing in his system, is that people can play across the systems. And I am curious to see how this system works because of so many new faces to the program. Now, there are a lot of experienced faces to the program, so hopefully it should click pretty fast. But the Gophers are all in on the season, and you can tell, and this addition of Lu'Cye Patterson should only help them moving forward. Now, I want to clear it up right away. Lu'Cye Patterson is not Elijah Hawkins. Their play styles are far, far, far different. So do not come into this season with that type of expectation. Let Lu'Cye Patterson be Lu'Cye Patterson and play his game. He is a far better scorer, but he doesn't create the same. And that is A-okay, because different players are going to have to step up in different roles. But that being said, like I said, maybe Mike Mitchell Jr. steps into that more of a facilitator type role and being able to set his teammates up. We've seen him do that in his time with Pepperdine. Now, it was mentioned that he was a top 5 scorer in the transfer portal, according to 247, when they were analyzing all the portal prospects out there. He was coming in at the number 2 scorer remaining of portal prospects via 247, and he is coming back home to Minnesota. And that is what Minnesota kind of needed, was some extra scoring, that extra shot creation, and being able to consistently find a bucket, because even last year the scoring efforts were a little bit stalled beyond Dawson Garcia at times. Cam Christie often was able to create, but sometimes when his shot wasn't falling, other shots weren't falling. All of a sudden it was a dry spell and you had to force things through Dawson Garcia. But now you have options. Now you have Dawson Garcia. Now you have Lu'Cye Patterson. Both of them have proven that they can be a bucket at any given point. And you have Caleb Williams, who can come off the bench, be a spark plug, and can score from all 3 levels with creativity. That's 3 players on this roster that have shot creating ability, that have the ability to isolate, that have the ability to really get creative in their scoring, and they can hit it from all 3 levels. That can help make this Minnesota team that much more dangerous if the chemistry comes together. And the big difference between Ben Johnson's first team and this upcoming team, both of them had a ton of transfers coming in, but this one has some experience coming back. This one has multiple players that were key pieces in the rotation coming back. You have Dawson Garcia, you have Mike Mitchell Jr., you have Parker Fox. All 3 of them played ample roles with this Minnesota team in the last season, so they can help set the foundations. And if you want to talk about faces of the program, culture of the program, building the brotherhood, Parker Fox, Dawson Garcia, and Mike Mitchell Jr. are right there at the forefront of showing the fire on the floor. Especially all 3 of them, actually all 3 of them really show the grit. They show the fire. They're slapping the floor, they're chirping, they're talking, and that is only going to rub off on the new members of this team and help them step into their confidence, help them step into their swagger. I'm actually really intrigued on how this team will come together. Now, like I said, he is a player similar to Mike Mitchell Jr., where he can play on or off ball. Having the two of them could possibly give the Gophers a lot of versatility, and adding Lu'Cye allows Mike Mitchell Jr. to really sit into that true point or facilitator type role. Well, Isaac Asuma starts to come in and get warmed up as well as a true freshman. So overall, this will move Caleb Williams to maybe that third type of shot creator that can come off the bench and be that scoring spark off the bench, which could be huge. And this addition could really help round out Minnesota's roster. Although it'll be a one-year wonder for most of these players, it could be a year to remember. So the message is clear with Minnesota. They are all in on 2024, and we're going to talk about why that is and if it's concerning at all coming up next. First, we got to talk about something because game off, we need to pause here and talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on play. You've already talked about that, but there is so much good stuff in this game. I just want you to give it a try. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. And the more you win together, the more awesome prizes you get. And top of hilarious emojis when you're taunting your friends after smashing their buildings, cool new pieces to travel the boards with, and so much more. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. Plus, they have a ton of unique mini games involved. So there's something new every time you open up the app. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win. There's always something fun and new to discover with Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it for free at the Google Play or App Store. Game on with Monopoly Go. All right, Gophers fans, we're wrapping this one up by talking about the Minnesota Gophers basketball team and what has been abundantly clear with next year and Coach Ben Johnson, and that is that they are all in on 2024-25. Now, next up is going to be the scheduling, and the Gophers have one available scholarship left. I don't think you're going to see them use that scholarship on anybody in the near future until Cam Christie has officially either pulled his name out of the draft or decides to stay in it. At that point, then maybe the Gophers take a look at trying to add a younger name from the portal to build long-term with this program that doesn't necessarily need to play huge minutes right away next season. But I do think that the Gophers are going to be patient and hold this one off just in case there is the chance that Cam Christie could come back and really lean into it all. Maybe Coach Ben Johnson and team and the Dinkytown athletes and what have you are going to really try to find some extra funds, find some extra ways to get Cam Christie an even bigger deal if he decides to come back to college, to really put their names at the forefront of why he should come back to Minnesota instead of testing it elsewhere. Now, will that work? I understand why people would be doubtful about it. I understand why maybe he would want to look elsewhere because of maybe different eyes or different opportunities, scouting wise and things like that, if he goes to a more major program plus bigger NIL dollars. But I digress. I think the Gophers are going to hold off on filling any last scholarship spot until that decision has been made. So looking at the roster with the 12 scholarships of the 13 that we have, 8 of those players only have 1 year of eligibility left. That's Dawson Garcia, Parker Fox, Femi Odukel, Brennan Rigsby, Trey Edmonds, Caleb Williams, Mike Mitchell Jr., and Lu'Cye Patterson. That is 8 players right there that will all absolutely be done playing, barring health, after next season. They won't have any more eligibility, and that means the Gophers have 3 or 4 players on this roster. They have 4 players total on this roster that have multiple years of eligibility beyond just this season. That's Frank Mitchell, that's Caden Betts, and that's the 2 freshmen coming in, Isaac Asuma and Grayson Grove. So there's not a whole lot of carryover after this season. And every transfer they have brought in is about production and immediate fit as opposed to growth and development. And it makes sense when you look at the college hoops landscape that has been how it's been shaping up, and it's been all about NIL, and anybody can leave at any time as long as you're in a good academic standing. It makes it so much harder to keep your team together. A team that was touted by Tom Izzo, said by many media analysts that this team could be a top 25 team if they keep their pieces together, and still that wasn't enough to keep a Pharrell Payne, to keep an Elijah Hawkins, and possibly to keep a Camp Christie. On top of a Braden Carrington, on top of a Joshua Joseph, there's so many names that left because of the unknown, because of the next dollar, a bigger dollar. And so you never know what can happen. So yes, maybe there's a little bit of fear involved with not having enough to keep building beyond this season, only having 4 players with multiple years of eligibility. But at the same time, we just saw a team that had multiple players with eligibility for another season, and it got dismantled and picked apart. So nothing feels safe in this new college landscape, which is why I'm okay with them really leaning into this 1-year production, but it also makes it a little bit more risky if the chemistry and the gelling doesn't work out. Now, success is going to be critical for not only this team this year with 8 seniors on the team, but also for Coach Ben Johnson, because this is a crazy college landscape. And the NIL situation in Minnesota might not be changing drastically anytime in the near future. So if they can't find their way to a tournament, it's going to be tough, whether it's fair or not, for Ben Johnson. I can tell you that right now. I know there won't be a lot of patience, and I think that's why the Gophers are going all out on getting the right fits, big time production, and people who can score the rock. So I think the Gophers have made it clear that it is tournament or bust this upcoming season, and they are locked in on going all in on this next season. Now, like I said, substantial NIL dollars. Hopefully, that's something that you can continue to build up if this team finds success. If they find a way to get to the tournament, if they can make a little run, all of a sudden, maybe you have some more people willing to invest, willing to donate, willing to contribute to the cause, and all of a sudden you get an influx of NIL dollars and you can take some more swings next year in the transfer portal. And I want to note that not a single 25 commit has committed to Minnesota quite yet. So any news on Gophers recruiting trail has been super quiet on that front as well. So there's a lot of unknowns moving beyond this season. Now, on a positive note, Isaac Asuma is headed this way. He finished as a top 10 point guard in this 2024 recruiting class and a top 100 player as well. So he's the type of player who could make an immediate impact in year one, but also if you can find a way, he can be the face of the program moving forward. He can be the guy you build around. He can be the focus of the team, and he can be one of the top NIL commanding dollars to maintain him after this upcoming season. Grayson Grove can fit that category as well if he's coming along nicely, but I think that it's nice to have that top 100 player, and hopefully you can keep him interested and on board. Now, if he does, hopefully he is locked in on wanting to be the face of the program as opposed to taking the next big NIL ticket and splitting out of here. But this is going to be a massive year for the Minnesota Golden Gophers and for Coach Ben Johnson and staff. We're going to keep you posted every step along the way. It's a crazy college world right now, but the Minnesota Gophers are starting to round out their basketball roster. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below, and I will see y'all next week where we're going to dive into some more football talk. We're going to get some Gophers women's basketball talk on here as well. I'll see you then. Throw the boat, Sky Umago Gophers, as always, and please don't forget to hit subscribe.